This woman named Sally left her 2-year-old daughter alone at home with her neighbor's dog to go to the party with her friends. But what she saw on her way home from the party was so devastating. Here's what happened. Once upon a time, in a small African town, there was a beautiful woman named Sally. Sally was as radiant as the morning sun. People loved her for her beauty and her living spirit. She had a way of making everyone laugh, and no one could resist her charm. Sally had been married 4 times before, but she had never had children. She always dreamed of having a big family, but that had never come true. Sally loved going to parties. Oh yes, Sally was always at the heart of any gathering, of a village meeting or a big celebration. She could not resist the fun, the laughter, and the opportunity to show her beauty. She had many friends, but among them, 3 were her best friends, those who always gave her advice, and Sally trusted them. He told her to never stop living her life and enjoying whatever happened. However, his first husband was not very happy with Sally's habits. He didn't like her spending so much time with her friends and watching her at so many parties. He was a quiet man who loved peace, but Sally loved excitement. She invited her friends to her place to chat and laugh, which made her husband very angry. Sally, you have to slow down and concentrate, he said. She liked being surrounded by her friends more than anything. It lasted a while, but soon her first husband had had enough of it. He said to her, "If you keep this up, we're not going anywhere." But Sally didn't want to change, and her first marriage was over. She didn't shed a tear, because she was convinced she would find another man. After all, she was still young, beautiful, and everyone in town loved her. Sally remarried. But as before, Sally never listened to her husband's complaints about her holidays. She was always busy with her friends, laughing, talking, and planning their next big party. One day, Sally was in the kitchen preparing Inyam's porridge. The marmite was on fire, and the smell of spices filled the air. But before Inyam started to soften, her friends arrived, their laughter breaking the walls like a sudden storm. "Sally, come and hear what happened to Mama Lady at the market," screamed one of them. Without hesitation, Sally wiped her hands on her cloth and rushed outside. She sat under the big mango tree, slurping and hissing like birds in the early morning. She spoke and laughed until the sun began to set. Sally was so absorbed by the commemoration and excitement that she completely forgot the food on the fire. Her friends were in her house, talking and laughing, and Sally didn't notice the smoke that was starting to rise from the kitchen. At the moment Sally remembered the smoke, it was already thick, and the fire spread. Flames danced high in the air, and Sally rushed to put it out. But it was too late. The whole kitchen was on fire, and soon, the fire spread throughout the house. Sally's husband arrived running to their house, his face pale in the sight of the fire. He was furious, his voice trembling as he shouted, "Look what you've done, Sally. You were too busy with your friends to worry about our house." The fire destroyed everything, carrying with him all the reasons why they worked so hard. He left his husband only with disappointment and rage. Sally felt terrible, but she didn't know how to fix things. Her husband, feeling desperate, turned to her and said, "I can't live like this anymore. Take your business and go." Sally didn't say a word. She knew he was right, but she didn't want to lose him. Her husband couldn't forgive her, and, with a heavy heart, he sent her back. Sally's heart collapsed. She ran to her friends to ask for advice. To beg him? "What for?" says one of them, raising her eyes to the sky. "If she can't understand that mistakes happen, then it's not the man you need. You're beautiful, Sally. There are many rich men out there who would be lucky to have you." With the words of his friends resonating in his ears, Sally packed what was left of his business and left without returning. Sally returned to her parents, but instead of taking a lesson from this experience, she continued as always. Her parents were worried. "Sally," they told her, "you must stop listening to her friends. They are leading you on a bad path." She's ruining your life." But Sally just laughed, her smile as sweet as a ripe mango. "Dad, you don't understand. This is how life works now. No one stays inside to become someone," she'd say, brushing them aside like dust on her beautiful loincloths. She thought her friends knew better, and she refused to change. So Sally stayed the same, and once again, his life took a new turn. This time, it was his second divorce. Sally didn't take long to find another husband. She remarried quickly for the third time. At first, everything seemed to be going well. His new husband was kind and hardworking. They had their moments of joy, and Sally tried to be a good wife, but her love for parties and gatherings never disappeared. She would sneak out at night to meet her friends, leaving her husband alone at home. Sally always believed that she had the right to have fun, no matter what. Her new husband began to notice the same problem. Every time he came home after a long day of work, Sally was either at a party or chatting with her friends. He often asked her, "Sally, why are you spending so much time with her? We were supposed to build a life together." But Sally didn't pay attention to it. She loved to laugh, get excited, and have fun. Her husband, often sitting in silence, felt lonely and neglected, but Sally didn't see him. After a while, her husband couldn't stand the situation anymore. He said to her, "It doesn't work, Sally. I need a woman who stays with me and doesn't run away every time." And just like her first two husbands, they divorced. Sally didn't cry and didn't beg. She didn't feel as bad as she thought, because after all, she didn't have any children to lose. She had nothing to lose. Not having anywhere to go, Sally moved to one of her friends, a single mother who didn't have a husband either. His friend gave him bad advice, telling him, "Don't worry, Sally. There are plenty of men in the world. Don't pay attention to what your family says." Sally thought her friend knew what she was talking about, so she continued to follow the same habits. She got married again and again, but no child came. Divorce after divorce. Sally found herself at the same point and without true happiness. Yet, Sally kept moving forward, never learning from her mistakes, always blaming her marriages for their failures. She never gave up on her dream of having a good life, always looking for the next big opportunity, the next rich man who could change her life. One day, at a big party in the city, Sally met a man named Taju. Taju was a rich and seductive man, known for his fortune and kindness. He had never been married, and at the age of 40, he began to think that he was old. When he saw Sally, he was immediately attracted to her beauty and charm. Sally, always ready to seize a chance to live a better life, smiled at Taju, and they quickly became friends. Sally was the queen of social relations, knew how to conquer the whole world. Taju appreciated Sally's warmth and laughter, and soon, they spent more and more time together. They were different from the men she had married before. They did not disapprove of their sociability, but they had a rule. No parties, no friends coming home. Sally agreed, thinking it was a small price to pay for the life she had always dreamed of. Taju, and Sally got married shortly after. Sally felt that it was the beginning of something really special. She moved into her big and magnificent house, and although she felt a lack of time for her holidays and friends, she promised to make this marriage work. Soon, Sally became pregnant with Taju's child. After 10 long years of waiting, she was finally going to become a mother, where Sally gave birth to a beautiful little girl. The whole town celebrated with her. Sally was delighted, holding her daughter against her chest. Finally, after all her failed marriages and disappointments, she had what she had always wanted, her own child. Looking at her baby, she thought, "It's the life I've always dreamed of." But she didn't know yet that her love for parties and her past would soon come to challenge this new life. Sally's friends, who had always been a big part of her life, could not stand seeing her get away. They were used to her wild lifestyle. Party. She didn't want her to give up the life she had always known and Sally seemed to have found her balance. Her days were filled with laughter from her little daughter, and the love of Tiju made their house as warm as a sunny day. But just as the rivers never remained still, Sally's agitated spirit began to agitate again. One afternoon, her friends came to visit her. They arrived with their usual energy, their voices resembling a whirlwind. "Sally, have you heard?" asked one of them, excited eyes. "Have you heard what?" Sally answered, throwing her baby on her knees. "The biggest party of the year is taking place next week," exclaimed another friend. "Everyone who counts will be there. You can't miss that." Sally shook her head. "I left this life behind me. My place is here, with my baby, my husband." But her friends wouldn't take a name for an answer. They leaned toward them, their words dripping with temptation. "Sally, you're the wife of the richest man in the village. What's the harm in going to a party? Just this once, for old time's sake. After all, you can't let people forget who you are." Sally's heart wavered. She remembered attention, the way people admired her. But she also thought of the strict rules of Tiju and the little hand of her daughter, who would hold her fingers. "I don't know," she said slowly. "Tiju will never allow it." "Don't worry about Tiju," said a friend, shaking her hand like she was hunting a fly. "We will help you to get out of it. He won't even know you left." "But what about my baby?" asked Sally, looking at her daughter, now asleep in her arms. "You will only be gone for a few hours," she said. "The neighbor's dog can watch over her, it's harmless." Sally's spirit was like an agitated mother, torn between the life she was trying to build and the excitement her friends promised her. "It will be the last time," she murmured. "Just a party and then I stop." Her friends smiled, knowing that they had won. They left with a well-established plan. On the evening of the party, Sally would leave discreetly, while Tiju was absent, leaving her little girl alone at home. "It will be perfect," she said. But they did not know the storm they were starting. The day of the party arrived, and Sally's heart was beating like a drum. She had dressed simply to not attract attention, but her mind was filled with excitement. She waited for Taju to leave the house, her passing fading like a distant echo. Her friends were already waiting for her nearby, their eyes shining with anticipation. "Let's go," insisted one of them. But Sally hesitated, looking back at her little girl who was playing with her little finger on the ground. "I can't leave her alone," said Sally, trembling voice. A friend intervenes quickly. "Don't worry, the neighbor's dog is here and he loves it. Leave it with the dog. You will be back before anyone notices your absence." Sally brushes her eyebrows. It didn't seem right to her, but the idea of missing the party was breaking her heart. "She will be fine," added another friend with a smile. "Dogs are loyal. He will protect her." After a moment of hesitation, Sally nodded, her resolution wavering. She kissed her daughter on the forehead and murmured, "I'll be back soon." The little girl laughed softly, her innocence in contrast striking with the decision that her mother had just taken. Silently, Sally left the house and joined her friends. They moved away quickly, their laughter floating behind them like murmurs carried by the wind. During this time, Sally's little girl was left alone, the neighbor's big dog lying down nearby, his eyes opening, watching the empty room. The party was all that Sally lacked and much more. The music was loud, the food delicious, and the drinks were flowing in a flood. Sally danced, as if the world belonged to her, her friends applauding her. She laughed until her stomach hurt, and drank until her thoughts became blurry. For the first time in months, she felt like Sally she was before. The hours passed, but Sally didn't realize it. Each song seemed better than the previous one, each verse softer than the previous one. Her friends were tapping her. "You're still the queen of the dance floor." His little daughter was living a completely different experience at home. The dog, left alone with the baby, began to become agitated. Usually calm, he started acting strangely. The day had been long, and the baby, confused and alone, began to cry. The dog, feeling threatened or troubled by the baby's tears, became aggressive. He bit the little girl. It was a painful bite, and the baby screamed in terror, but no one was there to help him. The little girl, unable to defend herself, suffered alone while the dog kept biting, thinking that maybe it would calm her down. The baby cried, unheard of, and time seemed to flow slowly. The blood flowed, and the dog only stopped when the little girl stopped crying, stopped moving, and ended up falling to the ground, unconscious. Sally, lost in the music and the acclamations at the party, had no idea of the drama that was happening at her house. She danced, laughed, and drank, remembering the laughter of her baby, moving away more and more at every moment. After the party, the night had become calm. Sally felt happy. Her heart lightened after the joy of the evening. She was looking forward to going home and seeing her little girl. The music was still resonating in her mind as she crossed the door, waiting for everything to be as it had left it.